Hello everyone, welcome back. We are continuing along with this last sort of sprint here. Before we dive into 7, 8, and 9, since I'm very confident we'll get all of those done in this part, I just want to tweak up a little bit this piece from the end of the last episode. So I made this little sort of nub here as sort of like a switch to flick. I just want to make it a bit bigger and mimic this shape a lot more, which should only take, a few minutes here. Essentially all I'm doing is deleting the top and I'm going to do a series of extrudes based on this. So just going to extrude this out like so. We can then go ahead and widen this out. Drop this down a little bit to prep for like a turning motion. You can then quickly bring this in. Shrink this guy down a bit and rotate. And extrude once again. Rotate. Shrink the size of this guy down a bit. Just gonna bring this back a little. Chamfer that, or bevel rather. And if we go ahead and fill this hole, we can just round out this top piece. And with this guy, I think we should be able to just sort of tuck him in like so. And just massage this out a little bit. And yeah, it just sticks up a little bit more. It was looking a little half-baked before, a little too small. But if we pull this in, yeah, this is definitely a little bit better. Kind of like that little indent, so let's bevel this guy. I just soften it out all around. Very short bevel here, very small bevel here. Just to sort of get that shape of like something you can flick down. Cool, so that's definitely a bit more as to what we're going for. I might even want to grab these two and grab their vertices and scale up. Push that down a little bit. And yep, there we go. Cool. So now we're back on track. We can go back to following this chart here. We are on phase 7 here. 7 was to return to this piece. Now, if you remember when we were making it, we didn't think we had any reference for the back or how the back of it looked like. Until we sort of stumbled across this later on. So I decided to revisit it. If we isolate this piece, it kind of seems like there's layers going on. It kind of seems like this middle piece is its own sort of layer, and then the back plate is detached and is sort of bolted on. This looks like there's some kind of screw or hole that's sort of going all the way through. So let's set that up here. The first thing I'm going to do is find a way to sort of split this up. So I'm going to essentially grab this ring of faces, hit Control E to extrude. We can just use this offset slider to bring it in. Let's do like a 0.15. And then we can extrude again and this time do the thickness and bring it in a bit. I don't want to bring it in too much. I want to make sure it's not poking through or anything. Something like that is fine, and I'm just going to very subtly scale it in. This way, I can kind of grab this along with all the middle components and make it their own thing. So I'll probably end up grabbing this outside ring and shift right click, extract faces. And I'll have this ring here, so I can actually go ahead and sort of seal it off so that we get some nice bevels for everything. Let me undo that. But this edge loop, for example, I'd want to snap it to be as thick as this. And I'm just sort of trying to break everything up into layers, so let's connect this. Shift right click bridge. Let's bridge one then, and then bridge the rest of them. So we have this ring here. Then we have this middle and back. Let's detach the back now. Right, shift right click to extract faces. So now we have this back piece, and we can go ahead and shift right click fill hole here. And that leaves the middle with a few gaps. We can fill this here as well. It seems we're going to have to pull this in a little bit. And that's cutting through some geo, but I don't think you can even notice. I think that's fine the way it is. What isn't fine is this sort of gap here. So I'm going to scale this up. And then we can bridge everything here. Okay. So now we sort of have these three different parts. This is good so that when we're putting it in ZBrush, we'll have these distinct, like it'll look like different pieces. What I do want to do though is this seems a lot flatter. So I'm going to bring this up a little bit. It still seems a bit round, but the main thing is that it sort of has like some kind of hole here as if there's something puncturing the back that's sort of connecting all of this. And actually, I'm just going to pull this forward just to keep it consistent. Maybe shrink it a bit, but definitely want to have it in front of that back since we pulled it forward. And then as for these guys, pull them forward as well so they're not sort of suctioned into something. Like they can't be in the back, right? They need to be pulled forward a bit. But yeah, let's focus on getting a cut here. And to me, it kind of looks like a diamond or an X shape. Like there's clearly a line going this way and a line going this way. So let's kind of have some fun and make a bit of a different, cool looking Boolean since we kind of have a bit of creative freedom with this one. I'm going to start with a cube. I'm going to stretch this guy out. Then going to add a cut in the middle. And go ahead and Control B to bevel that. And let's just sort of bring this up a little bit so that these are mostly squares, maybe like a 0.65. From here, let's grab all of these and we're going to turn it into sort of like a circle on the end of each. So I'm going to extrude them. I don't want it to be too big, so something kind of like 0.35. And we can just bevel all of these edges, crank everything up, kind of get this round shape. It kind of looks round. Let's try and bring this in a little bit. So I'm just deselecting these since we don't want them to move. Okay, since there's a lot of geometry going on here, I'm going to just delete both of these ends and then just do a fill hole, just so we don't have to do our Boolean and have a bunch of wacky geometry cutting through it. Let's duplicate this guy and rotate it 90 degrees. And let's really quickly just Boolean these two together. So grab both of these guys, make it on union, and new Boolean operation, delete history and base objects. And this should, yeah, it's a pretty clean Boolean. Let's go ahead and place this guy here. Scale it down. I want this to be pretty shallow overall. Make it kind of like an X maybe. And we can do a Boolean after freezing transforms and deleting history. Put it on difference again. And maybe we could push this guy a little bit further. Interesting. I'm thinking maybe to grab these faces here on the inside and Control B to bevel, kind of have a smoother transition in. And delete history and base objects. So we kind of have this cut going into it. And then we can just sort of put a bolt on each one of these things. I think that could have a pretty good look. So I kind of like the layers going on. I like having this ring here. Let's go borrow a bolt from somewhere. Duplicate this guy, and we'll isolate the two of these. So it kind of just sort of nests it in there. Rotate them all a bit. Go ahead and combine those. And if we take off wireframe, it's just kind of like a nice little opening that you could bolt things down into. Debating putting a additional one in the middle, but I think it kind of looks a little silly, a little bit overdone. And if we soften it, it'll look pretty nice when it's smoothed out, I think. So we'll continue along with that. And then it kind of has these sort of like ropes wrapped in there, but I don't know exactly what that would be for. I still think I should add some sort of layers in here though. So let's figure out a way that we can sort of wrap some kind of rope around here or something of the sorts. So we can grab this edge and do a smart duplicate face and center pivot on it. And just a quick way to get that sort of layered effect is we can go and open up our Insert Edge Loop tool. You can also find that under Mesh Tools, Insert Edge Loop. I'm going to turn this down to maybe 10. And you can get some edge loops in there pretty quickly. Maybe 8. Still too much. Maybe even 4 would be enough. Yeah, something like that. Or screw it, we'll just, I think 5. Okay, so my thought process with this is we can essentially grab all these faces, hit Control E to extrude, pull the thickness up a bit, but if we keep faces together and put that to off, we can then affect the offset, maybe not, maybe, let's start by merging our verts. I think we're gonna have to do this one row at a time, so I'm gonna extrude, thickness, about 0.1, and then just do a bit of an offset of like 0.1, 0.05, 0.02, 0.03, something like that. Do it for these two as well. Thickness 0.1 and offset 0.03. And we'll do this row as well. Thickness 0.1, offset 0.03. And we kind of have these like bands, these like different rows. Kind of isolate that and bridge this across. I'm going to go ahead and delete all these unnecessary faces, but now we sort of have these. Oh, no, we do need those. Those are pretty necessary. We have these sort of like bands here, which is going to be nice when we smooth it out. It'll look something like this. If I turn off wireframe, you'll get a better idea. And that's kind of the texture that's going on here. And then if we want to make it, or if we want to make it rope, we can do so. If not, we can maybe keep it metallic. Yeah, let's give that a color so we don't forget that it's on top. Okay. So that is that part done. That's 7 completed. 8 is very simple. It's just a series of cylinders that I was thinking of adding to this top bar just to add some extra detail. Let's keep this in shot. They're, yeah, essentially just cylinders. They're not even broken up or anything. They're just like hunks of plastic. So we can take this initial bar and duplicate it, center pivot, freeze transform, select history, and sort of scrunch it down. I'm sure you can see where I'm going with this. They seem to be just wide enough to kind of hug this guy. So I'll make them about that wide. They're about yay thick. Let's go ahead and start by cutting that hole into them. So I'm just selecting all the faces on both sides and extruding. Delete those. And then we'll have to bridge across. Actually, we should probably see what we're doing. Okay, worked out pretty good. And there's just sort of like a ring here. I'll put this halfway, and this halfway, And then we can evenly squeeze it in a little bit. Let's grab these guys and extrude. Very subtle. Actually, it might be a bit larger. Kind of like so. And then there's still a bit of a lip to it. So I'm going to add a cut here. I'm holding shift so I get a pretty good snap, and then I can sort of tell that it's going to be even on both sides based on where it's snapping. And I can extrude this out again, maybe 0.05, and we kind of have that shape now. We can delete this edge. Yeah, it's super close like here. It's going through. I might want to adjust the thickness of this. I want to grab the faces on the inside. I'm just going to make it a little bit thicker. And then maybe grab these guys and sort of pull them out as well. Okay, maybe make the whole thing a little bit shorter. Let's see how far apart these guys are. They seem to be decently spaced. You can make it a little bit bigger as well. It's like one here, and then we can put our pivot in the middle, just grid snapping by holding X, and mirroring that over the X axis with our toolbar. Cool, let's give these guys a color just to make them pop a little bit more. Green will do just fine. And yeah, these guys are super quick. Like I said, some of these are going to take no time at all. The last thing I wanted to address in this part, because the next couple of parts are going to take a bit more research, is rather this bottom part. So if I isolate this, you can see that I kind of made it in a way where this kind of goes up and then down again. And that isn't really necessary. I don't know why I modeled it this way initially, but what we're going to have to do is kind of just delete these faces, and then I think we can just snap that down, right? And if we merge, that, everything should be cool. Can then go ahead and like say, snap this forward, snap this down. Like this one, it makes sense to have it for, because there's a bit more going on. But these guys, we just have to clean up. I guess once we were doing the keyboard, I was just kind of in a mode of like, let's get this keyboard done. But with this, we're going to have to go through and clean this up because, yeah, this is a lot of additional geo that we just don't need. And even it's something that's not even worth baking down because it just shouldn't even be there to begin with. The part that kind of sucks is we can't just do a bit and duplicate it all over because there is this curve here. So we're kind of going to have to do it manually. But we can do it relatively quickly if we just go ahead and delete all of these at the same time. So I'm sure if you were doing this, you may have questioned why I kept it this way. I think this part was a result of me accidentally deleting some work we had done previously and having to remake it off of memory. And I ended up doing some weird stuff like adding this unnecessary divot at the bottom just continuing along. Actually, I wonder if it would just be easier to cut all of it, pull down, and fill hole. I think that'd be dramatically faster, wouldn't it? To go grab our cut tool and then just hold shift and slice across. Select these guys, delete. Snap that down, because it still has that wave pattern. And then all we have to do is focus on sort of snapping these guys and doing fill hole. I think I can even go to a side view and access this stuff pretty easily. Like, where's this vert? So I can select all of these, minus the ones that we don't want, like that, and that. And we should be able to snap that forward to this. Is that causing any issues anywhere? Shouldn't be. So we can merge vertices. I'm going to do that one more time. With this row of vertices, of course deselecting the ones we don't need. Snapping those forward, and then I can see the demonstration one I did at the start is a little wonky since we sliced it up. So that's pretty easy. Now we just need to focus on selecting all these holes. The one thing I will say, after using 3ds Max at work for a while, is there is a option to, just like selecting edges or vertices or faces, there's one for selecting holes, which means you can just sort of hover over an entire model and it'll select all the holes at the same time. I don't know if Maya has an option like that. I'm sure there's a plugin that would probably do that, if not. But I find it helpful for situations like this where you just need to fill hole on a bunch of things really, really quickly. Anyways, that's that. I suppose we also have like this. And we kind of need to snap all of those forward. Also, am I supposed to be able to see up into here? I don't think so. We'll probably have to close that off. Let's focus on selecting all of these verts though. And snapping them forward. Merging those vertices, and then let's see, the next row is this one, which we should be able to see right here. Now, are we selecting anything we shouldn't be? Doesn't seem like it. So we can go ahead and snap those forward. Merge that. Nice. But yeah, when I look up, I notice there's holes here. So I'm going to shift right click, fill hole. Now, I don't know if it was always like that or if I deleted something before, but I'm going to have to go through and fill all these, just pressing G to repeat last command. Yeah, we very well might have just missed this originally. So I'm glad we were able to catch this now. Seems like these are all on an angle. Oh, well. I think it's because it's just curving, that's why. Okay, continuing along. It's the halfway point. So I guess this turned out to be a lot quicker of a part than the last couple, because this is all I really had planned to do for this episode. Let's go ahead and deselect that. Yeah, that's all I had planned to do, was to fix up to that, because now the only things we have left to do is this back, and I'm going to have to do a little bit more research on how exactly that all works and what exactly is even going on here. As well as those additional keys in the front and how they're connected and what exactly they're doing. And then there's the thought of if we're going to be adding these additional keys or not. We do have some reference for that somewhere. It's just starting to chug a bit. But yeah, essentially it comes through the back into this piece, and I kind of like how this looks overall. This is also good reference of this piece here, actually. It's really nice. I'll have to keep this in mind. But yeah, I'm still up in the air because it doesn't look like it's too complicated, but it seems very interesting to look at. So let's just focus on getting the back done. The back, those additional keys, and then we'll address this. We'll see. I want to get all of this done this weekend so we can move into the high poly and start March off strong. February is about to wrap up, and I promised myself I'd have this part done in February. So anyways, that'll do it for this part. Looking pretty good. Glad we could sort of address this guy and give him a little bit more life, as well as fix up some of these minor things as well. Thank you guys for watching this part. Hopefully you enjoyed, and I'll catch you in the next part. See ya.